nightfall is even worse than the chaos of the day. 'Cause out here, where it gets so dark that you can't even see a hand in front of your face, Charlie owns the night. And he'll slip up on you and slit your throat before you even have a chance to scream.
At night, the frontline Marines are at their most vulnerable. Supporting air and artillery fire is less effective in the dark.
All around us, I hear Marines screaming and rapid firing.
Roger, week one, let me check.
NVA's trying to break through the line.
Roger, we're...
Only nobody knows where they're coming from, and nobody could see a thing. Mortars and grenades are exploding right outside the trenches. I scramble toward the screams of a wounded Marine. Just as I'm hunching over him, trying to stop his bleeding, something hits the dirt a few feet away. It's a grenade. And in that short amount of time, everything just seemed to
flash through my mind. I started backing away, and when I backed away, I put my hand up to my face to protect my face, and the grenade exploded.
For a moment, everything goes silent from the concussion. And I realize that now I'm the one who needs to be saved.
"200 miles to the south, at the American base at Pleiku, the nurses and doctors of the 71st Evacuation Hospital are rallying to save the lives of critically wounded troops from battles all over South Vietnam. Among them is Captain Elizabeth Allen, a 26-year-old nurse stationed in the Trauma Intensive Care Unit.
The first time I heard the hum of a chopper coming in low, I thought it was the most soothing sound in the world. But now, standing on the medevac pad of an Army hospital, that same sound makes my heart race and my stomach tighten up.
Since the start of the Tet Offensive, the number of wounded Americans in need of hospitalization has nearly doubled from that of a month earlier.
It's the pace of it all that really wears you down. Back home, massive trauma and multiple amputees are rare. But out here, it's run-of-the-mill. The only way to deal with it is to go into sort of like robotic mode. You take the first one and you fix it, and then you go on to the second one and you fix it,
and you keep going until that's over. You learn to use all of your senses. If it smells bad, it's infected. If it's bleeding, you stop it. And you do the best you can with that. Because you don't have another choice except to crumble. I have to tell you, crumbling ain't my style.
Honey, I wish you a belated happy birthday and have many, many more happy birthdays. And I'll be there for your next one.
All week long, we've been replaying Ben's latest letter. Hearing the sound of his voice. It's the only thing keeping us sane amidst the horrible news of Tet.
Ann Purcell is awaiting news from her husband, Ben. She continues to send him audio letters, but for the first time, he is not writing back.
Our best distraction is always church. Being there, among friends, is comforting. After the service is over, I saw the pastor
standing in the hall with Major Jim Statler. And I knew that they had something to tell me that I probably didn't want to know. Our pastor said, "Ann, come into my study," and we all walked in. And he closed the door, and Major Statler said, "Ann, Ben's missing in action."
All of these horrible thoughts started racing through my mind. Is he dead? Is he wounded? Is he out there in the jungle all alone? Or is he being held prisoner somewhere, beaten and tortured at this very moment?
The Tet Offensive made it clear that the communists had changed their tactics. But they didn't do it overnight. Despite optimistic reports to the contrary, it's been changing for a long time.
U.S. and Vietnamese troops. 3 weeks after the January 31st surprise Tet Offensive began, U.S. and South Vietnamese forces have successfully driven the NVA and VC out of almost every major city hit during the attack. Khe Sanh still remains embattled, but for the most part, the U.S. military is returning to its strategy of search and destroy, chasing the retreating enemy into the countryside. Second Lieutenant Barry Romo is back in the field outside Chu Lai, where it is believed that several hundred enemy soldiers who fled the city are now hiding.
All of a sudden, I hear a huge explosion behind me. Everyone hits the ground. When I look up, I see my platoon sergeant laying in a pool of blood. He stepped on a mine. We were just headed to LZ for pickup. Another 15 minutes, and we would have all made it out of here just fine. As we're getting loaded, one of my men tells me there's someone looking for me. I head over to the chopper he points towards. And as I get close, I see this major hold up a sign.
He had written, "Your nephew Robert has been killed. Your brother Harold requests that you escort the body home. Will you escort the body home?" And he didn't say, "I'm sorry." He didn't verbally say it to me. He didn't have the decency of a human connection. He had to write it down.
I can barely process what just happened. My brother had written to tell me that Bobby got drafted and was sent over here. But I was never able to see him. And now he's dead. When we get back to base, the staff sergeant comes up to me.
Told me how Bobby had been killed. He'd been in a major operation in a place called Dong Ha, where they were working with the Marines. A friend had been shot, and just like in the movies, he had stood up and ran to help his friend. And he got shot in the throat, drowned in his own blood.
As the news sinks in, I start to realize something else. I'm leaving Vietnam. And I'm never going to see any of my guys again. What's going to happen to them when I'm not here? Who's going to take care of them and make sure they get through this thing alive?
After everything I've been through, after everything all of us have been through, it kills me to know that I'm leaving them behind. When I went to Vietnam, we thought we could win. Anyone who goes now after the Tet Offensive knows that they're going to fight for a lost cause.
The Tet Offensive becomes a turning point, not only for the U.S. military, but for journalists covering the war. On February 27th, CBS anchor Walter Cronkite, known as the most trusted man in America, returns from a week-long trip to Vietnam and steps out of his role as a reporter to offer his personal view on the war.
To say that we are closer to victory today is to believe, in the face of the evidence, the optimists who have been wrong in the past. To suggest we are on the edge of defeat is to yield to unreasonable pessimism. To say that we are mired in stalemate seems the only